Welcome back, travelers. Imagine a city where futuristic skyscrapers soar beside centuries-old shophouses, street vendors speak 4 languages, and the scent of laksa fills the air, a seamless blend that somehow just works. Welcome to Singapore, the tiny island that rocketed from third world to first in a single generation. And today we're uncovering the incredible story behind its rise to global envy. Let's start with the man who made it all possible. Lee Kuan Yew served as Singapore's first prime minister from 1959 to 1990. And trust me when I say this guy didn't mess around. He's widely regarded as the founding father of modern Singapore, transforming the city-state from a small, resource-deficient British colony with high rates of illiteracy into the most prosperous country in Southeast Asia. Now, imagine you're Lee Kuan Yew in 1959. You've just become prime minister of a small island with virtually no natural resources, surrounded by much larger, potentially hostile neighbors. Singapore's unemployment rate was 13.5%, and the gross national product per capita was just $1,240. What do? Well, Lee had a vision that was both simple and audacious. He believed that superior intelligence, discipline, and ingenuity could substitute for natural resources. And boy, was he right. Here's something that might blow your mind. By the time Lee stepped down in 1990, Singapore's GNP per capita had skyrocketed to $18,437. Unemployment had dropped to just 1.7%, and external trade had exploded from $7.3 billion to $205 billion. Not bad for 3 decades of work, right? But Lee wasn't a one-man show. He had incredible people around him, including Goh Chok Tong, who served as prime minister from 1990 to 2004. Continuing Singapore's remarkable growth trajectory.
If you're enjoying this journey so far, don't forget to like and share this video. Your support helps us share these types of videos with a global audience. Thanks. Now back to the show.
And here's a fun fact that shows just how successful their approach was. As of 2023, Singapore had a higher GDP per capita than the United States and one of the world's strongest passports, enabling visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to more than 190 countries. Now let's talk about what makes Singapore truly special. Its people. Have you ever been to a place where you can hear 4 different languages in a single conversation and somehow everyone understands each other? Welcome to Singapore. The island is home to a fascinating mix of ethnicities, about 74 to 76% Chinese, 13 to 15% Malay, and around 7 to 9% Indian, with the remaining population consisting of Eurasians and other ethnic groups. But here's what's really remarkable. This diversity isn't just tolerated, it's celebrated. Think about it for a moment. How many countries can you name where 3 major ethnic groups, each with completely different languages, religions, and cultural traditions, live together in such harmony? Singapore has turned multiculturalism into an art form. The secret sauce? Well, there are several ingredients. First, the government actively promotes racial and religious harmony through policies and education. Second, they've made sure that this diversity is a lived experience. Walk through any neighborhood, and you'll see Chinese temples next to Islamic mosques, with Indian cultural centers just around the corner. And the food? Oh my goodness, the food. Singapore's hawker centers are like the United Nations of cuisine. You can start your day with Chinese dim sum, have Indian roti prata for lunch, grab some Malay satay as a snack, and finish with Western-style dessert. And yes, there's a UNESCO recognition for this hawker culture was inscribed on UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. But here's a question for you. How do you think they managed to keep everyone speaking to each other? The answer is brilliant in its simplicity. English serves as the common working language, while everyone maintains their mother tongue. It's like having a universal translator built into the entire society. Now, let's talk about something that might sound mundane but is actually revolutionary: public housing. I know, it doesn't sound thrilling, but stick with me here because this is where Singapore really shows its genius. Picture this scenario. You're a new nation in 1960. You've got a massive housing crisis, and people are living in overcrowded shophouses and squatter settlements. What do? Most countries would probably struggle with this for decades. Singapore? They decided to house their entire population and turn it into one of the world's greatest nation-building exercises. Enter the Housing Development Board, or HDB as it's known locally. Here's the mind-blowing statistic. Over 80% of Singaporeans live in HDB flats. That's not just public housing. That's practically the entire nation living in government-built apartments. But here's where it gets interesting. These aren't your typical public housing projects. HDB estates are self-contained communities with schools, shops, parks, and clinics all within walking distance. They're built using prefabricated construction, which means they can go up quickly and cost-effectively, and most importantly, they're designed to promote social cohesion. How, you ask? Well, there are ethnic integration policies that ensure no single racial group dominates any particular neighborhood. Imagine that. A housing policy that's specifically designed to make sure people of different backgrounds live next to each other. It's social engineering at its finest. And somehow, it works. For anyone considering moving to Singapore, understanding the HDB system is crucial because it's not just about finding a place to live. It's about becoming part of a uniquely Singaporean way of life in Singapore.
Curious to dive deeper into today's episode? Click the link in the description for a detailed article exploring this incredible country even further.
But Singapore didn't stop at solving the housing crisis. In 1967, Lee Kuan Yew introduced something called the Garden City Vision. Now think about this for a moment. You're the leader of a tiny, densely populated island, and you decide that what your country really needs is more green space? It sounds crazy, right? Land is the most precious commodity you have, and you're going to use it for parks and gardens? But this is exactly what makes Singapore so special. They think differently about what makes a city livable. Today, Singapore is famous for its lush greenery, extensive parks, rooftop gardens, and tree-lined streets. You've probably seen those incredible photos of the gardens by the bay or the jewel at Changi Airport with its indoor waterfall. That's not just for show. It's the result of decades of deliberate policy to make Singapore not just prosperous, but beautiful and livable. And here's something that might surprise you. Despite having some of the highest population density in the world, Singapore continues to expand its green spaces and promote biodiversity. They've turned environmental sustainability into a competitive advantage. Now, let's talk about the economic miracle that is modern Singapore. The story begins centuries ago when Singapore was known as Temasek, and its strategic location made it a vital port. Sir Stamford Raffles established it as a British trading post in 1819, and that geographic advantage is still paying dividends today. Today, the Port of Singapore is the world's second busiest in terms of container volume and remains a key driver of the economy. But here's where Singapore's leaders showed their brilliance. They didn't just stick with what worked, they kept evolving. In the 1960s, they shifted from trade to labor-intensive manufacturing, developing industrial estates like Jurong. But they didn't stop there. By the 1980s, they were focusing on high-value sectors like electronics and precision engineering. Today, Singapore is a global leader in semiconductor manufacturing, accounting for 10% of the world's chip market. Think about that for a second. This tiny island nation produces 1/10 of the world's computer chips. That's the kind of economic specialization that turns a small country into a global powerhouse. But wait, there's more. By the 1980s, Singapore had also become a major financial hub in Asia. Sound policies, a corruption-free environment, and stability made it a top destination for global finance. For professionals working in Singapore, particularly in finance and tech, this transformation has created incredible opportunities, and they're not resting on their laurels. Singapore is investing heavily in R&D, advanced manufacturing, and digital infrastructure. Here's where things get interesting, and maybe a little controversial. Singapore's political system is often described as a benevolent dictatorship. The People's Action Party, PAP, has dominated since 1959, enabling long-term planning and rapid policy implementation. Now, I can hear some of you asking, wait, isn't democracy supposed to be about multiple parties and political competition? Well, Singapore challenges some of our assumptions about what effective governance looks like. The system has its critics, absolutely. It's characterized by strict laws and limited political opposition. But here's the thing, it's also credited with fostering the stability and economic growth that we've been talking about. The government is known for its meritocratic approach and extremely low tolerance for corruption. It's a trade-off, and different people will feel differently about whether it's worth it. But from a purely results-oriented perspective, it's hard to argue with the outcomes. The question for any society is, what balance do you want between individual freedoms and collective prosperity? Let's talk about something Singapore absolutely nailed: education. Singapore's education system is globally renowned, consistently ranking at the top in international assessments. But here's what makes it really interesting. It's not just about academic achievement. The system emphasizes bilingualism, which means every student learns English plus their mother tongue, Mandarin, Malay, or Tamil. Think about the advantage this gives Singaporean kids in a globalized world. They're literally growing up multilingual and multicultural. They also focus heavily on STEM education while trying to maintain holistic development. And here's something that might surprise you. The government invests heavily in education with a focus on meritocracy and developing a skilled workforce. Education isn't just about personal development. It's treated as a national resource. For families considering moving to Singapore, the education system is often a major draw. The quality is exceptional, and for expat families, there are excellent international schools alongside the local system. Here's something that really sets Singapore apart: national service. Every male citizen and permanent resident is required to do 2 years of service in the military, police, or civil defense. Now, some of you might be thinking, that sounds pretty intense for such a small, peaceful country. But here's the thing. This policy is seen as a key pillar of national unity and defense. Think about it. In a diverse society like Singapore, national service brings together young men from all ethnic backgrounds and social classes. They train together, serve together, and form bonds that last a lifetime. It's like a shared national experience that helps create a common identity across all the different communities. And in a region where Singapore is surrounded by much larger neighbors, it ensures that the country can defend itself if necessary. Let's talk about something that affects daily life in Singapore: transportation. If you've ever been frustrated by traffic jams or unreliable public transport, you're going to love this. Singapore boasts a world-class public transportation system, including an extensive MRT, mass rapid transit network, efficient buses, and a well-regulated taxi system. The MRT is clean, punctual, and covers pretty much anywhere you'd want to go. But here's where Singapore shows its innovative thinking again. The city uses electronic road pricing and vehicle quotas to manage congestion. Basically, they make it expensive to drive, especially during peak hours, which encourages people to use public transport. It sounds draconian, but the result is a city where you can actually get around efficiently. No sitting in traffic for hours, no struggling to find parking. For professionals working in Singapore, this means more time for work and life, and less time wasted in commute. Now let's talk about the future. Singapore is at the forefront of digitalization, aiming to become a smart nation through initiatives in e-government, cashless payments, and data-driven urban management. Picture this. You can handle pretty much any government service online. Payments are increasingly cashless, and the city uses smart sensors and AI to manage everything from traffic to energy consumption. This includes widespread 5G coverage, smart sensors, and the integration of AI in public services. It's like living in the future, and for many people considering what to do in Singapore, the tech scene and digital infrastructure are major attractions. Speaking of attractions, let's talk about living in Singapore as an expatriate. Singapore is home to a large expatriate community, drawn by its safety, high quality of life, and business opportunities. And honestly, it's easy to see why. The country is incredibly safe. You can walk around at 2 a.m. without worrying about your safety. The healthcare system is excellent. The education options are world-class. And if you're in business or finance, the opportunities are phenomenal. Expats enjoy a cosmopolitan lifestyle with world-class restaurants, shopping, entertainment, and easy access to travel throughout Southeast Asia. Weekend trips to Bali, Bangkok, or Kuala Lumpur. That's just normal life in Singapore. But it's not all perfect. Sometimes expats face challenges integrating with local society due to cultural and policy differences. The cost of living can be high, especially housing and cars. And some people find the climate hot and humid year-round challenging. But for many people, especially those working in Singapore in sectors like finance, tech, or shipping, the benefits far outweigh the challenges. The country offers a unique combination of Asian location with Western business practices, making it an ideal base for international careers. Now let's be real for a moment. Singapore isn't immune to challenges, and some of them are pretty significant. The biggest issue is demographics. Singapore faces a declining birth rate and rapidly aging population, posing challenges for economic growth and social support systems. It's one of those problems that sounds abstract until you realize what it means. Fewer young people to support an increasing number of retirees, potential labor shortages, and questions about long-term economic sustainability. The government has tried various policies to encourage people to have more children, but like many developed countries, Singapore is struggling with this trend. It's a reminder that success brings its own set of problems. Then there's climate change. As a low-lying island, Singapore is vulnerable to rising sea levels. But characteristically, they're not just worrying about it. The government is investing billions in coastal protection, green infrastructure, and sustainable urban design to address climate risks. Before we wrap up, we absolutely have to talk about food culture in Singapore. I mentioned it earlier, but honestly, it deserves its own section because food is central to Singaporean identity. Hawker centers and food courts aren't just places to eat, they're cultural institutions. You'll find yourself sitting next to a construction worker, a banker, and a tourist, all enjoying the same incredible $3 meal. It's one of the few places in the world where exceptional food is both incredibly affordable and absolutely everywhere. Singapore uses food as a form of culinary diplomacy, showcasing its multiculturalism to the world. And it works. Ask anyone who's visited Singapore what they remember most, and food will definitely be in the top 3 answers. For anyone wondering what to do in Singapore, the food scene alone is worth the trip. From high-end restaurants to street food, the variety and quality are simply unmatched. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at Singapore's role in the world. Singapore separated from Malaysia in 1965 after political and racial tensions, which was initially seen as a potential disaster. How could such a small country survive on its own? Well, not only did Singapore survive, it thrived. It maintains close economic ties with Malaysia and Indonesia and plays a leading role in ASEAN, promoting regional cooperation and stability. Singapore has become the unofficial capital of Southeast Asia, hosting regional headquarters for countless multinational companies. The country punches way above its weight diplomatically, often serving as a bridge between the East and West, between developing and developed nations. For such a small country, Singapore has remarkable global influence. As we look to the future, Singapore continues to innovate and adapt. The Smart Nation initiative is just one example of how the country is preparing for the challenges and opportunities ahead. They're investing in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, financial technology, and sustainable urban solutions. The Singapore government has shown time and again that they're willing to try new approaches, experiment with policies, and adapt when things don't work. It's a culture of pragmatic innovation that has served them incredibly well. For young professionals, entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in being part of a dynamic, forward-thinking society, Singapore offers opportunities that are hard to find anywhere else. Whether you're working in Singapore in tech, finance, healthcare, or any other sector, you're part of a country that's actively shaping the future. So, what makes Singapore so special? It's not any one thing, it's the combination of visionary leadership, cultural diversity, pragmatic policies, and a willingness to constantly evolve and improve. Singapore took every disadvantage, no natural resources, tiny size, ethnic diversity that could have led to conflict, vulnerability to larger neighbors, and turned them into advantages. They made multiculturalism a strength, turned their small size into agility, and transformed their geographic location into a strategic asset. For anyone considering moving to Singapore, what you're really considering is joining one of the world's most successful experiments in nation building. You're looking at life in Singapore as part of a society that proves what's possible when you combine vision, hard work, and smart governance. And here's the beautiful thing. The Singapore story is still being written. Every person who chooses to make their life in Singapore, whether as a citizen, permanent resident, or even short-term expat, becomes part of this ongoing experiment in creating a better society. Whether you're wondering what to do in Singapore as a tourist, considering working in Singapore as a professional, or thinking about moving to Singapore for the long term, you're looking at a country that represents something unique in the world. Proof that small countries can think big and achieve extraordinary things. The little red dot on the map has become a beacon of what's possible when a society commits to excellence, embraces diversity, and never stops working toward a better future. And honestly, that's a story worth being part of. So what do you think? Are you ready to see for yourself what makes Singapore so special? Whether you're planning a visit, a career move, or just curious about one of the world's most fascinating countries, Singapore is waiting to surprise you. After all, this is a place that turned the impossible into the inevitable. And they're just getting started.
Next time, we're diving into something even more unexpected. Make sure you're subscribed to come along. Don't forget to check out our other videos on the right for more amazing stories. For more details about this video, travel guides, and travel-related items, be sure to check out our blog at travelwithsave.com. Thanks for watching. See you in the next adventure.